back to a project update. I think last time whenever I was working on this, I think I was getting together some of these pie charts. So I actually went ahead and added a couple new ones, so let me go ahead and show you and talk to you about those. I was also looking at the data set from earlier. Let me scroll up and show you. There's this column right here, unarmed slash did not have an actual weapon. This column basically means the person who was killed in this altercation, was he armed, was he not armed? And like, for example, this one right here saying like, he was in a vehicle, so they classified as that. So I went ahead and if I can scroll down here, this cell right here pretty much has a lot of the functions I've been using for a lot of my analytics and graphing, and I added a new one, the filter by weapon status, and you pretty much pass in the status. So say for example, if it was a vehicle, and then you pass in the police data, and then it creates the filtered status, and then it returns it, which pretty much returns just a data frame that only consists of ones that match with that certain status that you pass in. Then I went ahead and created another one specifically for locations, so we can search by specific locations. So let me show you that new updated one down here. It's in this cell right here. Let's search by state. Let's go to Tennessee. Okay. So it was just like earlier, nothing's changed about the pie chart for the race ratio or the gender ratio, but I've added this new one right here for weapon status for Tennessee. And we can see that over 75% of occurrences in Tennessee that the citizen has been killed was 75%. And then you can see the other breakdowns here. Only 10% are unarmed. It's pretty interesting to think that like vehicles are like that high percentage. I think it would believe like probably a little bit lower. And then so let's actually look and see overall data. This is a new one I was working on. So we can see total males take up about 94.99% of all occurrences in this data set, and females only take 5.01%. And remember, the big thing about this data set is that it's not like the entire population, like every single person who has been killed. It's kind of just a little sample I got from Kaggle and just kind of wanted to see what's going on here. But remember, it's not like the entire data, but it's just like a specific snippet. So that's what we're looking at today. And as we can see for all police data, we can see that white Americans take up 45%, and then Hispanics take up 17.9%. And then African Americans take up 26.08%. And then as we can see here, just like we was looking at whenever we was doing the specific like states and cities, we still have this like big unknown value right here. And overall, it consists of about 10% of the data set, which is really interesting. And as we can see here, for all of the data in here, armed occurrences take up 77.79%. And then vehicle is like really small compared to the other ones. That's really interesting. Okay, and I was working on some new ones too. Let me scroll down here. There's another data set. Let me go see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. CPD or charges. Here it is. Okay, it's opening for me, that's good. So let me move you, let me split you into two different windows. Okay, that's good now. So this is the one I've been working on a little bit more recently. This is the Chattanooga Police Department arrest charges. And it's pretty much described as, statute description, like what did they do, like this one, unlawful drug paraphernalia. That's how that column is broken down. And then we get other things, the UCR description, the actual charges they collected, the address number. But this one's really interesting because it doesn't give any names of people. The only thing it gives is like the case number, the TCA code, and If we go over, it only gives like, Chattanooga, we've got Eastridge over here. But then we see it's only broken down by race and sex, so there's no like names here or anything. Which is really interesting. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you just what we've been doing here. I've pretty much run this. Let's get this in a prettier format really quick. And so we just pull it in here. Oh yeah, there was a really interesting thing. I'm glad I grabbed this data set while I could, because if I go to the actual website where I got the data from, oh, it's back up now. Never mind, disregard that. Whenever I tried it earlier, it wasn't up, and I thought they like pretty much took it down, and I was like, oh man, that's crazy, but no, it's up. Disregard that. Okay, so it's a similar situation to the previous data set. We're filtering by the gender, we're filtering by the race, and we're filtering by the statute. The statute is the thing right here. The things like unlawful drug paraphernalia, just pretty much like what was going on in that situation. And we can see here. Oh, I'm gonna run that cell before. Let's take a look here. Make sure you still work. Let's move you. Female Chattanooga arrests. Let's run you. Okay, as we can see, let me scroll over. Yep, it's breaking it down by female, and then the male doesn't display because it was called before. That's fine. And so it's the same situation as before, creating two pie charts, one for gender, one for race, and one for statute. So let me run this. Let me run the cell before. Okay, we're good to go. So let me run this one and we'll take a look. Okay, as we can see for the Chattanooga arrest from this data set, females account for 27.32% and males account for 72.68%. And then for the race ratio, this is what was really interesting whenever I was working on this. As we can see, African Americans take up 52.50%, and white Americans take up 46.97%, and then there's an other category consisting of 0.53% of the data set. So it was really interesting whenever I was working on this. And like, as you can see, like, even if you look here, like, it only goes, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? Yeah, like, males, females, perfectly fine if they're wrong going on there, but it looks like, yeah, it's only really African Americans and white Americans in here. It's really interesting to see that there's like not like I don't know, like other probably consist of like the Latino groups or like anyone else like that, but it's really interesting to see that this data set only has like these two in here. Like this is the arrest data. This isn't like someone who's been like killed. It's pretty much just arrest charges. So it's really interesting there. Okay, so this is a cool one I was working on. The statute for Chattanooga, seeing the total arrests and just seeing how much each one is accounted for. So I was looking at seatbelt laws, but let's see vandalism. So we can pretty much paste this in here, replace that. Oh no, didn't do that correctly. Vandalism. And if we run this, we can see vandalism takes up 0.02% of all arrests in Chattanooga. And like, maybe in the future I'll go through and I'll like work on this and see if I can just kind of get it all in one place, because as you can see, sometimes it's kind of like up like this, like uppercase, lowercase, not completely organized correctly. So I may go back in the future and kind of trim that along. And so that's pretty much how it is for the Chattanooga arrest data charges. And now there's one last one that we're going to be showing you too. It's this one right here, the fatalencounters.org one. So let me close you. Don't save. Let me close you. All right, let's see here. What is it? The fatalencounters.org. It's this guy right here. Let's open you. Okay, as you can see, it's really similar to the first data set we was working with. We have the person's name, their age, their gender, their race, and other things as well. So let's see. Okay, good. So as we can see here, let me pretty you up and run this cell, make sure you still work. Okay, yep, we read the CSV file, and we go down here, similar situation as before. We have these functions here that do the work for us. That way we're not typing this every time we want this, kind of refactoring it a little bit. Pulling from the gender, pulling from the race, pulling from the state, pulling from the city. And so as we can see here, it starts to pull it for us. And then here we actually start to make the pie charts just as I was making before. Let me go ahead and kind of break this down. I'm not going to go through every single last pie chart on here, kind of explaining what it does. I'm just going to go through this one right here, the create pie chart, race, fatal encounters one. And so here, we're pretty much grabbing all the white Americans, all the African Americans, all the Hispanic Americans, and all the unknowns in here, because that's how it's broken down. If it's, oh no, it's race unspecified, yep. And so we pretty much grab them individually. Oh, what is going on? I had no idea what was going on there. Okay, so yeah, back to what we were doing. Pretty much, I count the number of occurrences in here. I just create a small list and I pin them. That way, like, because like we can do just like the length of it, and it's pretty much like if there's 100 of them, it gives 100, and it pretty much breaks it down, and that's how the pie chart works. Is you pass in the list you created here of the numbers, and it pretty much creates the pie chart based on those numbers. You give it a title, and you set it to equal. That way, all the values will be able to be equal and not show up to random values, and then you show it. Same situation up here. Grab the males, grab the females, grab their sizes, append those sizes, and then we add the labels for them. Just like here with the race labels, we have the gender labels. We plot it using a pie. And then we pass in the same values. Let's run that. Looks like you still work. And then right here, pretty much we can see for all fatal encounters, just for this specific data set, remind you, females take up 9.52%, males take up 90.48%. And so as we can also see here for the race ratio for these fatal encounters, a whopping 31.71% is like unspecified. And then we have white Americans with 33.20%, African Americans with 21.86%, and then Hispanic Americans with 13.24%. And so that's as much as I've worked on right now. The next one is going to be kind of like a final project overview. I'm going to have a kind of like a guide written, a little project paper. And then we're just kind of going to go through it, look at some specific figures, throw you some running code, and then that'll be it. Alrighty. Thank you guys so much. Goodbye.